On September 23rd, BHVR launched the stream for Sinister Grace, releasing the Krisu and V, a new survivor. But, along with this, there was a lot of other news, such as Night of the Living Cat collabs for skins with both Oni and Yui included, while also giving us a lot of insight into almost the entirety of the Haunted by Daylight scheme this year. We are pretty much completely informed. We have received pretty much every single skin, I think, at this point that we're scheduled to get. I think it's Unknown, Trickster, and Springtrap are all getting skins for this event this year. So we know just about every single thing within the next month of Dead by Daylight. We are aware of almost everything happening in Haunted by Daylight this time around, but with all this information around, the question still stands. What happened to Frank Stone? This question has been asked by multiple people, including myself, for the last few days, and I'm here to basically spread as much news and awareness as I can about this, because I think there is a genuine chance that we have actually managed to get their attention. I think we have maybe at some degree been able to convince them that there are enough people out there that it is worth it. That or they've delayed the skin entirely till October, but I will show things in this video that might disprove otherwise. So let's get into it. First of all, I have been, I don't know if I'd call it working with, but I've been talking back and forth with some DBD leakers here and there and asking them whether or not the Frank Stone outfit was at all discovered in the files when this main game released. And people are not saying they have seen it at all. No one has. And since they have not mentioned it on the stream on September 23rd with Night of the Living Cats, and had 2 new legendary skins completely made, which of course Frank Stone was going to be a legendary skin for the Trapper, which I of course hope he doesn't, but that was the plan that they had initially said on, I believe it was the FNAF stream, all the way back, oh my goodness, that was a while ago, and we, ever since then, have been radio silent on the Frank Stone skin situation. So, the lack of communication on this skin's release date, or anyone even seeing him in the files, or even on PTB, it wasn't seen. So we are very, very close to believing that this skin has been cancelled. We would have accepted it. But the truth is we think that this can be better. A lot of us think that this character has potential to be more than that. And I'm not going to try and talk too much in this video about Frank Stone's character, because I have an entire video dedicated to that, and I have an entire other video where I talk briefly about some of the reasons why he should be in Dead by Daylight regardless of the story, so I'm not going to make that too long about that piece. The big thing that is really convincing me otherwise is that not only did no one see it on the PTB, but it's not even in the files. That means something, because they would have at least had something in the files that we would have picked up that was leaked, because we already know about literally the Fang Min legendary skin almost a month before it's coming out. So the fact that Frank Stone hasn't been detected in the game files for over a month in September, which was his original scheduled release date, is actually a good thing. This could mean a very good thing, and I hope it is what this good thing is, and not that they're just making it a later date, because honestly, I think, once again, this is a wasted choice to make it a skin. It's a very, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's a lot easier than making a brand new killer, I would say. I think from a story aspect and probably even a power design aspect, they have more to work with Frank Stone than they would, say, the character that just came out, like Krisu, because they really just had to copy a lot of the folklore directly. They had to go off of the material, but that material isn't super well known, just like Frank Stone, and the Krisu is the new killer instead of what could have been maybe Frank Stone. I will be honest, like, Frank Stone probably could have came out this September for a 1-year anniversary of the casting of Frank Stone game, which came out very early in September. I believe it was September 2nd or 3rd. So they could have had a really nice opportunity to celebrate their game's release and also follow through on this character that we have seen and been nearly promised regardless was going to be in the game. Even before this skin was announced, we were pretty much told this character would be a killer in Dead by Daylight. I definitely believe that we, as a community, need to get up by our bootstraps, and everyone right now needs to be talking about Frank Stone in a DVD comments section. You need to just type the hashtag makefrankstonehisownkiller. Any of those things. Even if you come up with your own hashtags, just push out a message that tells people this character needs to be a killer in Dead by Daylight, because they don't just have the rights, the reason, the power design concepts, because I will go into depth about what I think that could be later in this video, but I think the big main issue that we are sitting on is that they made an entire game based on an entirely new character just to make him a skin. That needs to be addressed as a behavior is making nothing out of something great, and that's not something they should do lightly, because behavior doesn't always capture lightning in a bottle with each attempt, but I think Frank Stone was definitely a lightning in a bottle character that had a great feeling in the game itself and for Dead by Daylight as a whole. Like, I think he was great. His game did a lot for the game's lore, and I think having him in the game will definitely be a big incentive for people to not just play that game, but understand what its significance is, and for people to appreciate the game as, like, not just, oh, there's Dead by Daylight references, because there's clearly more in the game that has way less to do with the references and is directly telling you a story about some of the characters' lives and their implications with the entity or Augustine or any of that. It's all somewhat intertwined, and there is a real story connection between everything. And I honestly just want to see Frank Stone in the game for that reason, because they made a really good story on that game. They had a really great Dead by Daylight web story there. I haven't seen them make a story that was based on the original killers that was this good since, like, I want to say Dredge. I think Dredge had a really good story, but the last couple killers don't really have that feeling like they belong in Dead by Daylight for a reason. They just are monsters. They have monstrous qualities, so they end up in the game. And also Unknown. Unknown is another good one. He has an amazing lore, but once again, Unknown's lore is tied to Frank Stone. So, once again, you have another problem where you're like, you need Frank Stone to help fill in some pieces of other characters' lores, while also giving the space for DBD to start building on some other characters' lore further because of Frank Stone's game. He's not just as a killer a great idea, his game represents what the story of Dead by Daylight is and how it can go forward in any way, shape, or form because of the game. Because we have created a new version of the multiverse, so to speak, where we now understand what Dead by Daylight is to the entity. We understand what the whole place is. We understand how it actually works, and we feel what it feels like to be in these people's, like, shoes. We're in the stories. Like, imagine if you were the person who was working at Autohaven as Wraith's coworker, and when you saw, you know, Azarov get wrecked. What if that was, like, this game? Imagine that. We would be loving this game, and everyone would love this game constantly. But it's not that. So people were upset that it wasn't specifically a Dead by Daylight thing and was all Dead by Daylight and all 100% perfect Dead by Daylight thing. They were just looking for that. And also a lot of the players who play Dead by Daylight just didn't seem to have the attention span for this game. They didn't really care about the background details. They didn't care about the secrets. It wasn't important to them. It was very, like, the game was I don't even know what to call it, a joke. It was just it was a gag. It was a goof to play through it and chuckle at some of it. But I think that's where we fall off, is that part. People didn't understand that part was for a reason. It wasn't just nuance, it was lore. It was story, and it was a big piece of the story. And I think without Frank Stone as a full killer, we lose that story, and that skin does not transfer the lore in any way, shape, or form. We all agree, most people who played through the Frank Stone game, at the end, were saying to themselves, man, I can't wait for Frank Stone to be a killer. I saw countless videos, of every time, right at the end of the game, someone would always say, man, I can't wait for him to be a killer. Man, he's going to be a killer. And in the comment sections of all the Frank Stone videos, the whole year ago, is just people saying, man, I really can't wait for this guy to be a killer. So, I think it's just been enough is enough. We don't want a skin. We want a killer, because we love this character more than we love a skin. That's the facts. We love this character more than we'd love a skin. Compare this to a character that has a legendary skin like Naughty Bear. Naughty Bear is a gag on purpose, because his game has nothing to do with DBD other than its behavior, and it has a gruesome aspect to it. And even my friends and I were talking about this as a Wraith skin, because Frank Stone has some invisible qualities throughout the game, and we were like, why not a Wraith skin? Then we still found a problem with it. There was no parallels between these characters. It's funny because he's the champion. He has a name. They made him his own name in the game. He's called the champion. Augustine always calls him the champion, and then at the end you find a doll that's called the champion, and it said some text along the lines of the man forged in steel, fire, and celluloid, meaning camera. He's a man made of fire, evil, and memories, basically. That's what he is, and that's DBD. That's DBD right there. That is literally some DBD killer stuff that would make a super awesome, perfect character to fit in the DBD like world. And not to mention, it would just be so goddamn cool to see Frank Stone have his own Mori, his own flippin' like weapon skins, his own outfits. He could have his outfit from the beginning. He could have an outfit where he doesn't have his mask on, where he's like demasked. He could have his ghost form. Like, there's outfits for this guy. You can make money off of this character with outfits still. It's not a lost cause to make this character a killer, because you can still get more from it. And not to mention, Behavior has every single right to that character. That character is completely under their jurisdiction 100%. I have no doubt in my mind that they literally right now have that decision to make. And they may have very well gone back on it. And I'm very much hoping they did. So I guess I'm just going to get into this last bit where I give a bit of suggestions on what I think they could really do with him as a character, because I'm obviously just asking for them to make him a killer, but not saying what I think they could do with him. I honestly, the biggest thing that comes to mind every single time was Frank Stone's many weaponry items throughout the game. He has a booklet. He also has multiple weapons on his belt, and he is known to work with metal. He is known to actually like use it and mold it, so to speak. He literally does cast stuff. He is a caster. He's casting a Frank Stone. He literally works with that metal and makes his own weapons for specific purposes. Same with his mask. He's a very like intentionally evil person. And I think that fits the killer design a lot more than someone who just happens to be a monstrous character or has like some superpower or some technology that makes them stronger, like Skull Merchant. I think Skull Merchant was a wasted design to make a cyborg killer. Like, I know a lot of people wanted that. That was a big one. So I definitely think Frank Stone is the last bastion of the DBD lore being recognized as an important piece of the game, because that's where I'm at. I think his power is easily going to just be multiple weapon swapping, and then the weapons have unique effects. Like, maybe you can throw one of them. I was talking about this when I was playing the game on stream. Like, I'll even probably pull up the clip and cut this audio later if I choose to. But there's an entire journal detailing his entire weaponry. His whole stash of weapons that he's created all have these purposes, and they're for specific people. So, like, maybe Frank Stone has, like, 4 different weapons, and then they all do something, specific. Like, that would feel like an original killer power based off of the killer, and would fit his personality as a killer that's made up of multiple different realities of himself. That makes perfect sense thematically for his character. And not only that, but it would solidify his DBD existence as his own character, meaning he is not bound by some lore of he's like Trapper or he's like this character. He is his own killer. And therefore, Augustine, in that respect, then becomes a more important character, because if Augustine made, Frank Stone, and she has all this other killer stuff, there's a very good chance that Augustine is the only character in DBD that can really come back into the lore and change things. Because she has access to time travel, she has access to different realities, she has access to the entity's power, and clones of herself. So with that power, she could easily assist the entity, and has probably been doing said things with the entity whenever and wherever she needs to. Meaning, she could have been the person doing Nurse's lore, Wraith's lore, Trapper's lore, any character that has some item that appears in her home, she might have had a hand in. Because there is a couple items that are in her home that directly reference a killer without being an Easter egg. Flat out. She has a painting of R.J. McMillan, Trapper's father. She has Wraith's plushie or she has Wraith's weapon, his actual weapon, in her shop. She actually has that in her own shop. The literal weapon of a killer. I think that's the most, like, concrete evidence in the entire game, other than her just flat out having Frank Stone's mask as well. Like, she collects these things. And then also she has Huntress's mask. And I think it's even implied that she has Huntress's mom's mask, maybe. I honestly could be wrong about that, but I think she has her mother's mask, not Huntress's mask. She has the one her mom made and wore. So the question really is, how many more versions of Augustine can we fit into the other killers' lores to make this game interesting again? Because it doesn't just have to be Augustine, but I mean characters like Augustine, because I was reading Tori's lore, and there's an entirely possible character that's in her lore that we can explore and could be added very soon. Tori has leaked voice lines for next update, I believe, and then guess what? In her lore, she talks to Hattie's brother, Jordan Quar, and Jordan Quar, Hattie's brother, at the end of that, is actually brought... I believe this is what they meant by this happening. When Tori chooses not to sacrifice him, that's when she gets taken. And since Tori's in the same room as Jordan Quar, there's a very good chance that Hattie's brother is also in the fog now. So once again, every time we reach into the character's backstory, there gives this new opportunity to bring a new character to life and bring new interesting interactions and dialogues and just making the game interesting for the sake of making it interesting, because DBD has always been a story game at its core from a standpoint of design and just telling the environment, like trying to make the environment feel like something that's a part of someone's life, not just a place from a scary place, because that's kind of where we're going. We're just making characters that are that would look like they're from a scary movie. We're making maps that just look cool but don't have any bearing on some of the killers' like backstory, unfortunately. Like, it's tough. It's tough to love things that are really awesome looking and really great when they play well, but when they don't have backstory, that's a struggle. That is a real struggle for people like me who really like the Dead by Daylight lore itself as part of the game, and I'm very glad the tomes are coming back. So I just want to see Frank Stone's power have something to do with either multiple weapons, and just maybe even they could try implementing the camera. They could try if they want to, but I feel like that's a complicated thing to do, and people would still be okay with having multiple weapons as a killer. That would be cool. That would be very interesting to have a weapon that could like swap between status effects or swap between, like, I don't know, modes, kind of like how we just got Myers. I don't even know why people hate that new Myers either. It's really not that bad. You can still get the 4K Mori with literally no add-ons equipped. I can't see how that's a problem. So, yeah, I'm very looking forward to the changes they make going forward with Dead by Daylight, because I think adding more is not the win unless you're adding something that really is meant to be in the game in the first place, like Frank Stone, for instance. I think characters like Frank Stone are the characters that belong in Dead by Daylight versus characters that look like they belong in Dead by Daylight. That's the difference. Is characters that have the backstory to be in DBD versus the characters that have the look and the sound and the vibe to be in DBD. I think we need to separate those two and start to distinguish that really heavily, because I think going forward that's going to make killers more interesting and more just well designed around their own character. I think it was so intertwined when we would have killers come out like the Unknown. Those killers were so intertwined in the lore. Even like, I think Unknown was really the last decent one, but even characters like Unknown that are still not perfect, like Dredge, and aren't amazing killers, people still appreciate those killers because they have a unique playstyle at the bare minimum. So I think we agree that as a community, we like things that are unique, we like things that have a purpose, and we like things that really just feel like they belong and aren't just there for the sake of changing the game's meta or adding something to buy or adding a cosmetic for money. It's kind of at that point right now. And I just want to say one more time, make Frank Stone his own killer. Everyone who watches this video, please, I am begging you. I'm about to go into a job soon, so I will not have nearly enough time to play this game, nor post about it. So I wanted to make this video as soon as I could, telling everybody that this is urgent. Autobots, if anyone's out there and you hear this message, we need you. And I need you. Frank Stone needs you. The entity is calling on everyone right now to make the right decision for this character. This is the fate between a really great character from the DBD lore versus a $15 skin, possibly, that might not ever be appreciated for anything more than a Trapper skin. That could be a massive loss. I just want to leave with that. I just would like to see that loss be avoided, because I know the amount of people who play Trapper and the amount of people who play Frank Stone are probably already low as it is, but both? Oh man. That number's already pretty low. I don't even... I might be that one guy. That might just be me. So, yeah. I want to fight for him, because he fought his whole way through his whole trials. So, why is he not here? He deserves to be here. You know what she said at the end of that game, right? Let the final trial begin.